President Trump only has 9 days left of his term, but Democrats are pushing to have him removed before that. Democrats plan to bring a resolution to the House floor calling on Vice President Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment, which allows for the president to be removed from power with support from a majority of his cabinet. If Pence does not act, the Democratic-led House will move to impeach President Trump for an unprecedented second time. So to dive into the legal issues here, I want to bring in Whele. She is a law professor at the University of Baltimore and the author of the great book, How to Read the Constitution and Why. Everyone should pick this up. This is the guide that you need. So thank you so much for joining us, Kim. In your newsletter, you wrote, the Constitution didn't anticipate a president prompting a violent attack on Congress, literally one branch of the government encouraging an attack on the other branch of the government. I'm curious. There's been a lot of talk about whether or not, the 25th Amendment, whether or not it's really realistic, considering the fact that you need the majority of his cabinet to sign on, and a lot of his cabinet has already left or is leaving. And also when it comes to impeachment, we know that in terms of the timeline, it won't be completed. If it could be completed, it wouldn't be completed until after he's gone. I'm wondering if the Constitution is actually equipped for a situation like this. Is in this case, is the Constitution sort of failing?
Well, I think the Constitution has been hanging on by a thread for 4 years now, and there are a number of things that are going on here. One is that certainly the framers understood that rioting and protesters could turn violent. They were concerned about that. One of the reasons we have a republic that is representatives instead of voting directly is the idea that the members of Congress and the president would be measured, thoughtful people that would go along with the rule of law. Here we not only see an unhinged president, and when I say unhinged from the rule of law, but also we have members of the Republican Party in the Congress that have basically been lying to the American people about a rigged election, signing on to that false narrative. So with respect to 25th and impeachment, again, we need to see politicians step up to the plate. The 25th Amendment requires Vice President Pence to agree to send a letter to the United States Congress. And as you indicate, it says inability, unable to perform the duties of office. I think when post-JFK's assassination, that provision was promulgated, the idea was somebody who's very sick and can't execute the duties, not someone who incites a mob on sitting members of Congress that could have led to actual deaths of sitting members of Congress. As far as impeachment goes, nothing in the Constitution says it has to happen while he's still in office. A couple things that could come out of it. Again, we need 2/3 of the Senate, so we need Republicans to come on board. It could prevent him from running in 2024 as a sentencing measure. It also would take away lots of perks of post-presidents. He wouldn't get a security detail. He wouldn't get $200-something thousand a year for the rest of his life as a pension. And I think some people think, given the events of this and last week, the fateful call with the Secretary of State of Georgia, where he asked that person find votes to swing the election, that this isn't a man that deserves ongoing support by the American people post-presidency.
So when we're talking about the 25th Amendment, it certainly has been invoked before, but the relevant Section 4 has not. It's uncharted territory. Just walk us through the process and the timeline, and are there limits?
Yeah, so the 25th Amendment, as you indicate, it's there because there's a big blind spot in the original Constitution. Doesn't say what happens if a president dies in office. So that's sections 1 and 2. And then section 3 has been used, for example, by President Reagan when he had surgery. He said, listen, I'm out for a while, that my vice president is going to take over. 4 is basically saying this person can't handle things. We want to take him out. All that requires is the vice president and a majority of the cabinet, which would be about 7 or 8 people, to send a letter to the Congress saying we believe he can't discharge the duties. Under the Constitution, then the power would go automatically to Mike Pence. That's the critical element here, different from impeachment, where the remedy's not till the very end of the trial. Then the president would be able to say, listen, I'm okay. Then the cabinet would say, no, you're not. There's kind of a back and forth ping pong of letters. But it does look like, based on the research that I've looked at, the better the stronger argument is pending a resolution by Congress to give the power back to the president, it would operate to take the power for the last 9 days away from him, which some people think is important, given that he has access to the nuclear codes, he controls the military, he controls federal law enforcement, and of course, we've also seen Russians hacking into many of our systems over the past 8 months under his watch.
I think there's this feeling that even though there's only 9 days left in the presidency, that something has to be done. You have to say something about what we saw unfold on Wednesday and the words that the president used that contributed to what we saw. So we are sort of running out of time, as you point out. But you did point out that even with an impeachment, there are some things that can occur after he's left office. Resignation, 25th Amendment, impeachment. Can you just sort of outline what would be, I guess, perhaps maybe the most punitive action? I mean, if the president resigns, all that stuff that you talked about with the impeachment, does he forego that? Can he be stopped from running again versus with an impeachment, he could be stopped from running again?
Yeah, that's expressed in the Constitution. So think about impeachment, Anne-Marie, like a trial. You have the indictment, which is the House of Representatives. That's the articles of impeachment. You have the trial in the Senate, and then you have a remedy phase. Here, he could be removed, number one, which would take away these benefits, or the Constitution makes clear as a penalty, he can be banned from office. And some people think, given the danger potentially of this person, 2024 should be out of the question. There are two pieces here. One is stopping further damage for the next 9 days. And I just think, given that we haven't heard from the White House or the Defense Department or the FBI about what happened on the 6th, we just don't know if we're safe, frankly, for the next few days, given there are more protests or riots that are being planned, et cetera. The other piece is, what do you do about the structure of the Constitution? And I do think there needs to be a shot across the bow that the Constitution isn't to be toyed with, that there are tickets for speeding, for violating the spirit and the letter of the Constitution. Otherwise, Anne-Marie, it becomes a piece of paper. It's meaningless. And, this isn't just for us. It's for future generations, that we need to protect it and preserve it, regardless of political party. So I do think there needs to be a strong message that inciting a riot against sitting members of Congress, calling for violence against Mike Pence, for example, that's just not going to fly. So we don't have someone pick up that baton in the future, whether it's Donald Trump or someone else.
Yeah, and we don't even have time to talk about that. Some people are bringing up the 14th Amendment, but I'm sure we'll have you back. Law professor Kim Whele, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.